You writing the notes? All right, so I'm recording. So we're starting chapter 2, and we graphed absolute value equations last chapter. Now we are solving them. Okay, Sarah, you should be writing, please. Come on, guys. Not a new day. Same way I do the notes and stuff every single day. Everyone should be writing. So what we're going to do is solve an absolute value equation. It's pretty simple, okay? This is nothing to be stressed about, but we need to kind of go over it. So here's the thing. You could have 3 different solutions. You could have 1 solution out of this, you could get 2 solutions, or you could actually get no solutions. That's why we have to check it, all right? So every time, if we didn't check it, we would have 2 solutions every single time, just so you know. Okay, we're going to get 2 solutions out of this. But when we check it, sometimes they don't work in the original equation, okay? So here's the thing you have to remember. Really, really simple to do, but there's a few rules. We have to get the absolute value portion of this equation by itself before we can do anything. So I have to get this minus 9 to the other side, and I have to get this 2 to the other side. I need the absolute value to be by itself, okay? And we just use our rules for solving equations to do this. So I would add 9 to the other side. So I add 9 to get rid of it here, right? That's 0. And then I can add the 9 to the 7, okay? And I get 4x plus 16, right? And then, guys, when you see a 2 right up against the absolute value symbols, we learned this when we were making XY charts. Remember, we'd plug a number in there and simplify it. What did we do with the 2? We did 2. What's the operation? Do we add the 2 to whatever's in here? Multiply. But we don't want to multiply. Don't distribute. Don't distribute. We want to get rid of it. Remember what I said? We want to get the absolute value by itself. So the opposite of multiplication is division. So what I'm doing right here is what I call the cleanup of the problem. I'm cleaning it up so I can finally solve it, okay? So I added 9, and now I'm dividing by 2, and I'm at this step now. This is where I need to be, I get all the cleanup, to be able to solve the equation. Here's how we solve it. We rewrite it 2 ways, okay? So I write exactly what I see. You can get rid of the absolute value signs now. So I write 5x plus 1 equals 2x plus 8. There's one of the 2 ways I'm going to write it. So exactly how I said, I didn't change a thing. And I'm going to write it like this. I'm going to go up a line. 5x plus 1, so I didn't do anything to the left-hand side, equals, change all of these guys' signs. Remember how it's the distance from 0? We can be to the right of 0 or left of 0. This is the positive from 0, the negative from 0. That's what absolute value is. So I'll go over those steps again in a second. But just so you know, this step is, you don't have to write it out like that. We could have gone right to 5x plus 1. Oh, change that sign. Change that sign. Because that's all a negative does, is it changes both their signs. Okay? So isolate the absolute value and rewrite it 2 ways. Exactly how we see it one way, and then change all the signs on the other side of the equation. And now we just solve it, okay? Now we're just going to get x by itself in both equations. So I have x's on both sides. We're going to get our x's together, just not in real life. Messy, messy. That's funny. You can laugh. Fine, don't laugh. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. And then what would I do? What's the next step? Subtract 1. Do I have to show that step? No. I don't have room. And then divide by 3. I would get x equals 7/3. I hope I didn't make a mistake in there. I hope I didn't copy that problem wrong. Okay. So we get x is 7/3. And I don't think we get fractions like that most of the time. But anyway, let's go over here. So I'm going to get my x's together again. So I'm going to add 2x to this side. Gives me 7x plus 1 equals, be careful, That's a negative 8, right? Don't lose that negative. I don't know why this first example has these dumb fractions in it. That's why I hate this book. Okay, so we get these two solutions. You could risk it. You could live on the edge and say, I'm going to write them both as my solution. But the truth is, you do have to check it. And it is pretty easy to check, and I'm going to show you exactly how to do it in your graphing calculator. Even with fractions, it's really easy. We're going to plug this, we'll do this one first. I'm going to plug 7/3 in right here. Watch, I'm going to do both sides of the equation right in my calculator all in one step. So when I put 5 times, I put parentheses, you could use a times symbol, so 5 times, what I get, 7/3. Remember how to put a fraction in here, just divide it. 5 times 7/3 plus 1. I get that answer. Don't even write it down. Just look at it for a second. Then 2 times 7/3 plus 8. So I'm plugging into the right-hand side of the equation. Say it again. 7 divided by 3. Yep, just the division symbol. So guys, look, that's the left-hand side. That's the right-hand side. Does the left-hand side equal the right-hand side? Yeah, this one's good. That's a good answer. We keep it. You don't even have to write it down. I always say, whenever I tell you guys to check something, it's kind of your business. Like how much work you show or not, you always want to check. It would be dumb of you guys not to check because then you could get the problem wrong. So even though I don't make you show the work for it, you should still do it because you're going to see, we're going to have an example of all 3 of these right now. So now I'm going to go right back. I'm going to do the same exact thing, but with this answer, -9/7. Okay, so that was my second answer that I got. So I'm going to go right back in here and type it in. So even though I don't have absolute value symbols, just wait on that. 5 times -9 divided by 7, close my parentheses, plus 1. Now, I got a negative answer. Yeah, who cares what it is, though, because we're going to see the other one. But we actually know that that's not a negative, right? It's actually positive because it was in the absolute value symbols. Why didn't I mention that on the last one? Because we got a positive answer anyway. So remember, we're plugging in here. It's actually a positive. If you want to make it look like a positive right on your screen, multiply it by -1. That's really what your answer is. But you don't have to do that as long as you know that anything that comes out of here is going to be positive. Okay? Then I'll do the same thing to the right-hand side. 2 times -9/7 plus 8. And I got that. Are they the same? Yes. Just be careful. If you had not remembered that this was supposed to be positive, you might think that they were the wrong signs. Okay? They were opposite signs. So to be equal, you have to be the same numbers, same signs, everything. So this is a 2-solution problem. Both of our solutions work. Okay? Let's do another one. Look at example B. Always clean up first. We have to clean up the problem first, meaning get the absolute value symbols by themselves. So I usually get the question, well, how do I know which one, what to move first? And here's how I answer you, okay? So you may not have thought of it yet, but some of you might be thinking of it. If I gave you this equation, let me use the example up here, the first one we used. If I gave you this, something that looked like this, would you add 9 first or divide by 2 first? Add. So in solving equations, it's opposite of what you would do in order of operations. It's the only time I tell you to add or subtract first. So whenever you're solving an equation, isolating something, moving one thing to the other, you always add or subtract before you multiply or divide. That's how I know to add x before doing anything with that too. So I'm going to add x to this side, right? Who can I add to? Another x. That canceled. 3x plus 1x is 4x. And then don't distribute. Remember, this is 2 times the absolute value. Opposite of that is division. So this is the cleanup portion. You have to do this if it's not given to you already with the absolute value isolated. Sometimes it is. And then you divide both of those by 2. So now we're ready to do the problem, writing it in its 2 different ways. Okay? So remember, we read it exactly like we see it. Don't change anything. X plus 1 equals 2x minus 2. I didn't change a thing. That's the first one. Exactly like we see it, take the absolute value symbol. And left-hand side stays exactly the same. And then change all the signs. So I'm just changing all of their signs. So positive 2x becomes negative 2x. Negative 2 becomes positive 2. I just did this. I just didn't show that stuff. Distributed a negative to both of them. And then I solve. I'm going to bring this x over here this time. 2x minus 1x is 1x. Could you have gone to the other side? Of course. We got x equals 3. Why am I going different directions with my x's? Because I want to get a positive. So I'm just thinking ahead. I could subtract x from here, but adding 2x to here gives me a positive answer. But it doesn't matter. You can do it either way. And by the way, there are certain times that you can use a fraction, change a fraction to a decimal. This is not one of them. Let me talk about this. X equals 1/3. If I put that in my calculator, so if I did 1 divided by 3, so I get to this step and I do 1 divided by 3, I get a repeating decimal. It's not a terminating decimal. In order to write a fraction as a decimal, it has to terminate, like 1/2, okay? Because if I try and change this to 0.3 and plug it in, since I'm rounding my answer, I'm not going to get a true answer when I plug it in. So that's the key to know when you have to use a fraction versus a decimal. If it doesn't end, you can't write it as a decimal. Okay, so let's plug it right back in, right on our calculator. Don't make this a big deal. It doesn't have to be a lot of work. I'm going to plug in 3 where there's an x. I mean, do I have to do it on my calculator? Let's just keep going it the same way. So on the left-hand side, I got 4 when I plugged 3 in. And on the left, and it stays positive, right? Because the absolute value of 4 is still 4, right? If I get a positive, that's good. It's easier. I don't have to worry about it. Then on the left-hand side, I have 2 times 3 minus 2. So I'm just typing it in there. And I get 4. So is 3 a good answer? Yep. We'll keep it. Okay? Then the other one, 1/3. Same exact stuff. You just do it right in your calculator. I'm typing 1/3 in. Notice I put it in parentheses. I don't know if you have to. Let me see. 1/3 plus 1. No, you didn't have to put it in parentheses. So I got 1.3 repeating on the left-hand side. Just leave it. It doesn't matter. You don't have to like round it or write it down or change it to a fraction. So that's what I get on the left-hand side. It's positive, so it's good. And then 2 times 1/3 minus 2. See what I get? I got a negative. Are those two the same answer? The answer is no. They are not the same. So this one is not a solution. On a test, on homework, this is the only answer you would have. That's a 1 solution. This is why you have to check. Sometimes you get lucky. You get lazy, I'm not checking them, and they're both the solution like we just had. In this case, only one of them was. And I'll tell you, I was going to do another example with you where neither one worked, but I'd rather go to the homework and start doing some of those with you. But it can happen where you plug both of them in and neither one is the answer. You would write no solution, okay? So 1 solution, 2 solutions, or no solution. That's why you have to check, okay? So let's do this. Let's go to page 79, and I'll do several of them with you to get you going on your homework and practice at the same time. That way we have plenty of time to ask questions and all that stuff. Okay, so find that page 79 that you just ripped out. And we're doing 1 through 6. Remember, I wrote it at the top. So on the top of your, and I think you could probably write on that paper. Nah, you probably want to write on your own paper. It's up to you. Okay, but it's A16. Make sure you're labeling. Tell me where I lost you. What step did I lose you?
I think I did step 1.
Okay. Let's go to the homework and I'll come back over and see with you. Okay, so the very first homework problem. Anytime you have to solve an absolute value equation, you have to first ask yourself, do I need to clean up any messes? Meaning, is there anybody on the left-hand side with that absolute value symbol that has to get moved? The answer is no. So they handed us one that's already cleaned up, ready to rewrite. There's nothing that has to move, okay? Since the absolute value is by itself, cleanup is taken care of for us. Remember, we just write it 2 ways. 8 plus p equals 2p minus 3. Exactly the way I see it. I haven't changed anything except take the absolute value symbol off, right? Then 8 plus p, so the left-hand side never changes. The part that had the absolute value, I should say, doesn't ever change. And then everybody's sign on the other side changes. So we go from positive 2p to negative 2p, negative 3 to positive 3. Okay? Ask a question if you don't know how I got that. The homework, remember? Okay. All right, so you have to get your p's together. You can subtract p or subtract 2p. I'm going to subtract 1p from 2p. I just like to get positive answers. If you did it the other way around, you're still going to get the same answer as me. Everyone should have p equals 11, 11 equals p, either way. Okay? Over here, I'm going to add 2p to 1p. So I have 8 plus 1p plus 2p equals 3p. We can subtract 8. Brian. Doing homework now. 3p equals negative 5. Divide by 3. And guys, you can just leave it. I mean, if you do 5 divided by 3 in your calculator, you're going to see that you get a repeating decimal. So we can't use that, all right? So just leave it. So let's pretend you weren't paying attention. You're just like, okay, negative 5 divided by 3. Oh, wait, she said I can't use that. How do I go back to a fraction on the calculator? How do I do it? I'm stuck here. I want the fraction form of this. What are the buttons? Come on, you guys remember? No? Math, enter, enter. Remember? Math, enter, enter. Changes a decimal to a fraction. Math, enter, enter. So if you get that decimal, you're like, ooh, I wasn't supposed to have a decimal. Math, enter, enter takes you back to a fraction form. Okay? All right. Now we have to check, guys. So I'm just going to use my graphing calculator. I'm going to do 8 plus 11. And it's absolute value, so 19 is positive. It stays positive. There's the left-hand side of the equation. And I'm going to do 2 times p, which is 11. And see if I get the same exact answer. I do. 19 equals 19. 19 equals 19. This one's good. I know that at least one solution we have. Okay? Then I'm going to do the same thing with the negative 5/3. 8 plus negative 5 divided by 3. 8 plus 5. 5/3. Just leave it. It's positive. Absolute value is always positive, so it's good. The sign is good. And then 2 times negative 5/3 minus 3. Did I get the same answer? No. So this one is not a solution. It's called extraneous. It's bad. We didn't do anything wrong. It just doesn't work in the equation. Okay? That's why you have to check. If one of them's positive and one of them's negative, they're not the same. Okay? So the answer is just 11. Right? That's it. That's all you would write. If this was a test on the answer line, you would just write 11. That's the only answer. Okay? The work is all there, so I see you got credit for trying it and everything, but you would not put that as an answer. That's why I crossed it out. Okay? All right, is there any cleanup in number 2? Nope, absolute value is by itself on one side. So we don't have to do any work to get started. We're ready to just rewrite it 2 ways. 4w minus 1 equals 5w plus 37. Just like I see it, take the absolute value symbol off. Then remember, the left-hand side stays the same. We don't do anything different there, but change the signs of everything on the other side. So if you were positive, you become negative. If you were negative, you become positive. And solve. Don't lose that negative. Okay, so we'll get that one. Don't lose this negative. Okay, so I get my 2 solutions. Anybody have a question about how I got either of those answers? And I pick up my calculator. It's great practice on putting stuff in the calculator. So I'm just going back to the original equation. And on the left side, 4 times, and I'll start with the negative 38, 4 times negative 38 minus 1. And I get a negative answer. Okay, I get negative 153. But remember, it's in absolute value symbol. So it's really not negative 153, it's positive 153. You can either know that, or if you want it on your screen to read correctly, you could multiply by negative 1, which will just change its sign. So you know on the left-hand side here, it's really a positive 153, okay, because of the absolute value. JT, were you asking me something?
No.
Were you stretching? Okay. 5 times negative 38 plus 37. Let's see what we get there. I get negative 153. So understand, if I hadn't remembered that that was absolute value, they would both have a negative. But these do not equal each other. So this is not a solution. Okay? Understand that, because we had a negative inside here. When we bring it out, it becomes positive. But there's no absolute value on this side, so we didn't change the sign. Those are not equal. Then I'm going to do the same thing with the negative 4. 4 times negative 4 minus 1, and I get negative 17 on the left-hand side, right? This is what I have, but I know the absolute value of negative 17 is positive 17, okay? Plug the negative 4 on the other side. 5 times negative 4 plus 37. I get 17. Are those the same? Yep. This is a good solution. That's one solution. This one is not. Okay. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. And analytical calculus, maybe. I just took a calculus class that last semester just for fun. I took at SPC. I did an online class. I did another calculus class just to like brush up on my calculus skills. I like math. I bring math on like planes. Like when I go to Vegas. I mean, if I ever go to Vegas, I always bring math on the plane. It soothes me. It's like I enjoy it. Yeah, but you guys can do things I can't do. So like text with two fingers, I can't do that. I can't do it. I text with one finger. I don't know how to do it. I don't understand how you guys do it. Anyway, all right, I'm going to put the rest of the solutions on up here. So these are the last. Don't forget number 3. There is some cleanup. You do have to do some cleanup in number 3. I'll start it with you. So guys, this is the first one in our homework that you have some cleanup, okay? It's driving me crazy. Get rid of it. Get rid of it. Erase you. So we have to get the absolute value by itself. We would subtract 13 first, then divide by 4. Subtract 13, divide by 4. And then divide by 4. Divide this whole side by 4, that makes those cancel. Divide that side by 4 gives us -1. And then you go from there. Guys, you should be able to tell right at this step that this is no solution. Right now. How do I know right now that this is no solution? Anybody? How can the absolute value of anything equal -1? It can't. There's no variable over here that could change its sign. There is no y value that you can plug in here. Try it. I challenge you. Give me a y value here that will give me a negative answer when I take it out of here. It doesn't exist. That's why it's no solution. So if you understand that, you could skip that and go on to 4. Okay? Or you could show it to yourself by doing the work. On a test, I would want to see the work. Or you would have to give me an explanation of why. It seems silly to do that work.